Live.
Well, good morning, everybody, or should I say happy lunchtime in our beautiful Duke City. Let's see, today is Monday. Wow, already Monday. We're 4 months into the new year. I can't believe it already, but so excited to have the panel that we have with us today. So welcome to another edition of our webinar series that we're hosting over the next 6 weeks or so with the collaboration of the Mayor's Office. And a big shout out. Thank you to Stacy behind the scenes, who's been helping to get everything set up. And of course, Angelique, who is always helping us with the webinars. But we are excited to bring you another group of lovely ladies that are going to share with us their different departments and organizations and how they partner with the city. Today's actually pretty important because it's economic development. And although we have kind of a focus, they really help small businesses in so many ways. So we're very, very excited about that. So today's panel is really going to be focused on tourism, but like I said, we're going to pepper some other stuff in. So I want to start by introducing everybody, and we're just going to go around in the order that you're sitting on my screen. And if you guys could tell us who you are, what your title is and what department you're with, and then we're going to kind of break it down by department after we meet the panel. So Tanya, you're in the hot seat. You're on my right side.
All right, great. Thanks, Shannon. Tanya Armenta, President and CEO of Visit Albuquerque. So we are a private not-for-profit that is contracted by the city to promote the city for tourism, meetings and conventions, sports events. We've been doing that for just a little over 40 years. So happy to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Wow, 40 years. That's awesome. Nika, you're next.
Thank you for having me. Hi, I'm Nika Allen. I'm the Director of Aviation for our beautiful city of Albuquerque. I run our 2 Albuquerque airports, the Albuquerque International Sunport and Double Eagle 2, which is our general aviation airport on the west side of Albuquerque. And great department. We have about 300 employees, and we facilitate tourism for our state, business travel, and a lot of economic development. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Cynthia Jaramillo.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the Albuquerque Spinal Chamber for hosting us. I am really grateful to be in the company of some pretty dynamic, powerful leaders. My name is Cynthia Jaramillo, and I have the pleasure of serving as the City of Albuquerque's Economic Development Department. And like my colleague Nika Allen stated, I have the responsibility of the recruitment of companies to the beautiful city of Albuquerque. And really the Economic Development Department was really created to promote and facilitate business development. In addition to retention and expansion, we're very much focused on the support of small business in the city of Albuquerque.
Wonderful. Can't wait to hear more. And Ernie, that brings us to you.
Okay, so amongst us girls, I'm the only one that's not. That's been my entire life. I have 4 older sisters, so I know exactly how to deal with this panel today. So I'm excited that it's a great panel. I'm President and CEO of the Albuquerque Spinal Chamber of Commerce, and similar to what Tanya said, we've been involved in convention and tourism for 40 plus years. We have a focus with the Hispanic and Native American audience. And so, yeah, this is going to be a great conversation because, man, we have some of the great opportunities in New Mexico if we can just get an opportunity to showcase it. So let's have that good discussion today.
Thank you so much, Ernie. And you're right. It's time for a really great discussion. I think just to kind of set the tone so that everybody knows specifically what everybody does. Cynthia, if you don't mind, if I could start with you, can you just share a little bit about the mission of your department, kind of the purpose of the department, and any key personnel that I think would be important, that you think would be important for us to know about?
Certainly, I'm happy to do that. As I mentioned before, the Economic Development Department really serves as a conduit to promote and facilitate business development, in addition to also supporting all of the work over at Visit Albuquerque and the Albuquerque Spinal Chamber of Commerce to promote the city as a destination to tourists, to convention goers, remote workers as of late. But we really, some of our key partners in promoting the city as a destination for companies, as a destination for visitors, include Albuquerque Economic Development. They're the private sector arm of the city's economic development department. We have a really strong relationship and are grateful for the work over at Visit Albuquerque and the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. I also oversee a small business office where we work to help businesses navigate the layers of city bureaucracy. Just recently, we launched the Minority Business Development Center that is housed over at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. And the center is really, their mission is to help minority business enterprises access contracts, access capital. In addition to that, I also oversee the city's international trade department, where we provide export assistance. And so there's a number of initiatives and efforts that this department is responsible for, but we couldn't do any of that work without our critical partners that I mentioned previously.
Thank you, Cynthia. And you're right. There is so much activity that happens inside your department. And so we'll definitely break that down even more. But thank you so much for giving us the bird's eye view of exactly what you do in your office. Nika, I'd like to move over to you. Kind of the same question. What's the mission of the department? Tell us a little bit about the department and any of the key players that you need us or that you would need the public to know about in aviation.
Sure. So I think, you know, a lot of people know what our general mission is, which is to be able to, we strive to be a first-class airport connecting families, businesses, and cultures while prioritizing safety, diversity, sustainability, and accessibility. We want to make sure that people can get where they want to go, and we want to be the ones that facilitate that. The Director of Aviation, as I mentioned, oversees both airports, but you don't usually think about the city, I think, when you think about running the airport. You think about your airlines and you think about all the other people that you interact with. You don't necessarily interact with the aviation department on a day-to-day basis, but we're the ones that actually manage the building itself. We manage the runways. We work with TSA to make sure that you have a safe travel experience. So we have a lot of partners at the city. It's kind of like running actually at the airport, it's like running a little mini city almost. And so we have a whole bunch of different contracts and leases that we actually manage. We manage over 250 active contracts and leases at the Sunport. And people doing, you know, all kinds of things. We have companies there that have their own businesses. We have a company called CSI Aviation that does healthcare med flights, which is very cool. We have our FBO partners who manage general aviation and private flight. And then we have companies like 10 Tanker, who are actually firefighting companies. So lots of cool companies operating out of both of our airports. And you know, we really need, the biggest thing we need right now is we need people to travel. It's definitely been a bit of a depressed year with COVID, you know, of course, for a good reason. We didn't want people traveling during COVID, but you know, luckily now that people are beginning to get vaccinated, hopefully people will also get back in the air and we'll see more tourists here in Albuquerque and in New Mexico. And in addition, hopefully people in Albuquerque take the opportunity to go visit friends and family and go take that long awaited vacation that they've been wanting to take.
Well, thank you so much, Nika. Wow. Again, I get so excited because so many different things and partners that these departments do that we don't know about. And we know the basics, but we don't know all that fun stuff. So that's really great, and a great segue into tourism and how important it is to our economy, and you know, and how important it is to the airports. And so a great segue into introducing Tanya. So Tanya, if you could tell us a little bit about your organization and how you partner with the city.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, we're a private not-for-profit, so 501c6. Our mission is to stimulate economic generation by bringing, as I said, leisure travelers, meetings and conventions, sports events to Albuquerque. And so that's really the core of our work. But I would say that we are also very well aware that our marketing and sales do benefit the broader economic development work of the city. So people don't move to a place that they've never visited They don't move a business to a place they've never been. So that's really where that very first date for economic development tourism is. So when we look at it, we're really highlighting the quality of life and the opportunity for programs like Cynthia was just talking about, the new ABQ Home for Life for remote workers. So that's really a great opportunity, a segue into that through tourism. So we right now, of course, it has been a devastating year for tourism. I feel like that's really been, everybody realizes that. And as Nika just said, from everything from the airlines and the air service overall to just overall people, there was, you know, the lack of gatherings. And so that is something I want people to think about. There hasn't been a convention at the convention center in over a year. Not a single person has gotten together in the convention center in over a year. So when we fast forward and think about recovery, and we think about getting activity back at the convention center, getting activity back downtown, as Nika said, of course, getting that activity just continuing. I've been pleased to see the activity at the Sunport start to increase, which really is that what it's indicating is that people are feeling, you know, they're feeling more positive about getting out. We've got a great vaccination rate here in New Mexico. And the CDC has said, you know, low risk opportunity to travel once you have your vaccination. So I think we have a lot of opportunity here. We're certainly looking forward to getting things back moving very positively. We came off of a lot of great years for tourism. You know, leading into 2020, we just had 8 record-breaking years. And so we're looking forward to getting back into that trend line and heading in the right direction.
Well, oh, am I on mute? I was like, am I on mute? There's so much happening, and I'm glad that you're talking about all that, Tanya, because we also have, you know, hotel downtown that it still hasn't opened in over a year. And I think that these are things that everybody is maybe on the outside not 100% aware of, how important our downtown tourism is to our economy. And before, I want to take it back to Cynthia, but before we do, I want to bring Ernie in. Ernie, you know, we do a lot of things obviously here at the Hispano, but I definitely want you to introduce the organization and talk a little bit about our core mission and how we fit in.
Yeah, well, thanks, Shannon. And it's all about economic development and workforce education, because that's what's needed for the economy here in Albuquerque and New Mexico. And it's kind of funny you bring that up, Tanya. I almost think our gala, that was one of the last things that really happened at the convention center. And you think about how sad that is, to think about how long ago that was and how much fun everybody was having. And all of a sudden, you know, the world, we're just turned around. I mean, it's just like stopped as far as tourism is concerned, and how that has really affected our economy here in New Mexico. And you know, everything that we do is about Albuquerque and New Mexico and the weather, and bring in, like you said, you don't move to a place you've never seen. So we were visiting with a member recently, and he comes from a CPA firm, but he's really, I said, where's your accent from? Because he's from Germany originally, and he's been various places. And the place he loves the most is Albuquerque. And he and his wife want to stay here. And they've been here for several years. They've moved and come back, and they love this place. It's almost amazing how people, when they're given the opportunity to stay here longer than 3 days or a week, how much they really actually understand and see how beautiful New Mexico and Albuquerque really is. So, you know, that's that's what's so difficult right now, is how do we enjoy this and try to celebrate Albuquerque and New Mexico to others who really are hesitant to come in, who we've really turned away over the last year. We've said, don't come. You know, it's kind of all of a sudden we say, don't come. And then you say, please come. You know, we're kind of in a world of hurts with that. But we do have the advantage of looking outside right now and seeing the blue sky and everything that we have that's great. So, you know, at the Spinal Chamber, we're glad that we have this convention and tourism contract, because it fits nicely into everything else we do with our small business outreach, community outreach, our programs and our membership. So like Tanya, we're a 501c6, but we also have a 501c3. And, you know, we're a central part of Albuquerque. We're here in Borealis community, which was at that time when we built this building, the biggest pocket of poverty in Albuquerque. And we have a beautiful campus. I hope people, sometimes we're still hidden in plain sight. We got to fix that. But anyway, no, there's a lot that we all can work together. Can I kind of ask, one of the things that we held the National United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce annual convention in 2019 in October. Things were rip roaring great, right? End of September, early, and then, you know, we never expected what happened to happen. But one of the things that we learned from this, and you guys probably all know this, is that, you know, people, they came. It was a really very successful convention because people came here and found out how inexpensive it is to be here. How, you know, the hotel rates and, you know, transportation, but what was kind of hard is getting here. And so I know that has been an issue that I'd love Nika to talk a little bit about sometime today, is just the direct flights. You know, I know that we used to have more direct flights and how that might change in the future, because when you have more direct flights and really cheap places to stay and beautiful places to see, you have a winning combination. So, you know, hate to put you on the spot, Nika, but I know there's got to be some great answers for that.
I love talking about direct flights, so happy to.
So I think right before we move over to Nika, I'm going to bring in Cynthia in on this conversation. Now, Cynthia, you have a big responsibility to the city when it comes to tourism. And so I know that you have some important information to share. And so if you will jump in here on this conversation and let's talk about the importance of tourism and what you do.
Sure, and I think I'll speak from the administration's perspective, and I would like to, just a good segue from what Tanya and Ernie both talked about. And as we start thinking about, and as COVID-19 restrictions begin to ease up, we're seeing that finally, we know that there will be an increase in leisure travel. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about Mayor Keller. So he directed his administration, both the Economic Development Department and Aviation Department, to figure out a way to support the tourism industry in Albuquerque. And so Mayor Keller, he has committed $1.5 million in addition to the contracts that already exist with Visit Albuquerque and the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce for marketing and advertising to boost Albuquerque as a top tourism destination in the coming months. Now, we all know this, and I know Tanya talks about this a lot. The leisure and hospitality sector is one of the Albuquerque's largest private industries, generating approximately $2 billion annually. And that particular sector employs more than 44,000 people in our city. And so when it comes to a quick and comprehensive response to COVID-19, the mayor, again, directed his team to look for funding to further market and really demonstrate Albuquerque's strengths and natural assets to place them in the spotlight. So we believe that right now we're in a position to infuse growth into the tourism industry. Now, I don't need to say this, but it's more important than ever that robust marketing campaigns establish Albuquerque's image as one that makes people both excited, but also comfortable to visit. Now, people want to know that they're visiting a safe, healthy, and vibrant destination. And we know that Albuquerque checks all of those boxes. Now, the tourism industry has been the hardest hit. And with Mayor Keller's pledge of $1.5 million for marketing and advertising, we really believe that that will begin to help the tourism industry get back on their feet and really bring back the jobs and revenue that were lost as a result of the pandemic. And I'll also mention this, that Mayor Keller asked the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board to develop a plan for the funding, to really set goals for the funding, which also benefits tourism partners like the convention center, Visit Albuquerque, the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber, also organizations like the Greater Albuquerque Hotel and Lodging Association. And just want to make a note that the 1.5 million, which I'm sure is very important to those that are tuning in, the 1.5 million is from the general fund and the aviation department. And most of the funds are available right now to capitalize on the expected increase in leisure travel as COVID-19 restrictions are lessened and people are vaccinated and ready to travel after longer than a year of staying home. And so I'll just close with this, and then I'll hand the floor over. But I just want to say that this initiative will also support the campaign that Tanya mentioned, our Home for Life campaign, which really positions Albuquerque as an ideal location for people seeking, again, a more healthful, more relaxed, and a safer environment. It capitalizes on trends that were accelerated by the pandemic, like moves away from large cities and from areas prone to natural disaster. And really, this campaign targets what we're all calling remote workers. And we're also targeting boomerangers, those who lived in Albuquerque and have left. And we hope that we'll find value in returning. And of course, we hope that vacationers will see Albuquerque as an ideal location for them to work remotely. And some of the cities that I'd like to mention that are being targeted as a part of our initiative and campaign are Houston, Portland, Los Angeles, and we're adding cities like Denver, Dallas, and Phoenix, and a few others like Boston and New York. And really also, okay, I'll close with this, I promise. Albuquerque is leading in being the most healthful city, and we are committed to the community's well-being, and we're committed to providing access to affordable health care, open green spaces, clean air. We're a low-risk natural environment, and in addition to being a low-cost housing destination for those that are looking to move here. And so I just wanted to mention that. I know the $1.5 million that are on it's on people's minds. And so I just wanted to get that in. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I mean, I think it really helps for the public to know. They hear these stories, they're not sure where money comes from. They don't know how it's allocated. They don't know where it's supposed to go. And so having these conversations is really, really important for them to understand that. And of course, we have the most beautiful weather. We have 4 seasons. We could go on and on about Albuquerque and why people should move here. But, you know, it's just because we love our city so much. We love our state. So I definitely want to jump over to Nika, because I know that you have several comments after Cynthia talking there, and also love to address the Ernie's question, which is, talk to us a little bit about how that happens. What is that process? And I know you don't just pick up a phone and go, hey, Southwest, we need more direct flights, make it happen. So talk to us a little bit about what that is and how that process works.
Sure. Thank you. And so I always feel bad when Cynthia and I are working on a project together, because my funding always comes with like a million strings attached to it. So it just makes it way harder to use. And I have to kind of play around to make it possible, but we get it to work. So that's a good thing. So jumping into what Ernie was talking about, I love talking about direct flights. Thank you for that call out. So first I want to kind of set the stage a little bit, that people in New Mexico often refer to how we historically had a lot more flights, specifically direct flights and specifically on Southwest. And I'll just ask, do you know why? Since Ernie, you're asking.
Well, I can't remember that law.
The Wright Amendment, exactly.
The Wright Amendment, there you go, yes.
So the Wright Amendment was established in 1979, and it basically was something that the United States and the FAA said that governed traffic. DFW is the major airport in Dallas, and Southwest is based out of Dallas, and they wanted to create Dallas Love Field as an airport. And so what they did to kind of ease the pain, I guess, for DFW was they put in a requirement that said that anyone traveling out of Dallas Love Field could only go basically one state over. They couldn't actually have direct flights, point-to-point destinations. So because we are one state over from Texas, that gave us a huge number of flights, basically a huge number of direct flights, all the flights that we want, of course. And so without the actual backing, economically speaking, for why that made sense. And so that law was repealed in 2014. And so immediately we saw a massive cut to all of our direct flights, which for us here in Albuquerque was a very unfortunate thing. It was a huge hit because we all got used to, from 1979 to 2014, having this huge benefit from Dallas Love Field being created that allowed us to get these direct point-to-point flights that we actually had no economic sense in really getting, unfortunately. So now that's the negative news, right? Now the positive news. We can get new flights and we can make it happen. The biggest thing is we have to make the numbers work for the airlines. And so it's another thing that I, kind of hate to say, but it's all about the money, honey. It really is. Airlines, they're nice and all, but they really don't care if it's going to help our economic development or our tourism by giving us a direct flight. They say, hey, we got a chicken and egg situation going on. You guys need to prove to me that you can make this flight economically viable for us. And so our job, and for our tourism organizations here, organizations like yours, let's work together to get these flights that we really want. And how do we do that? It's by flying them. And so if you think about it, there's a lot of really complicated ways to do the math on whether or not we can make a flight economically viable. And then there's an easy way to do it. So we'll talk about the easy way because I'm not going to get into the hard stuff. It's too hard for even me to do. So we hire really smart consultants to help us with that math. But the easy stuff is basically talking about load factor. And so your average plane, for easier math's sake, let's call it 150 passengers on a plane. So in order to make a flight break even, it usually takes about 75% of the plane being full. So I can't even do that kind of math in my head. But so you got 75% of 150 seats. That's when the airline's breaking even. 75% and up, that's what makes a flight economically viable. So for us, we got to make sure that we essentially fill the plane on every single time that it flies, because it's expensive. It's like millions of dollars every time you fly a plane from point A to point B for the airline. So we need to fill 150 seats times 2, right, for every route that we have. And so that's really important math that we do. So that's, and then you talk about a route. Usually you don't just see one route once a day. That doesn't really, or one route once a week. That's pretty rare. Usually we're seeing like at least once a day a flight to Chicago, once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, a really robust route for us in Albuquerque. We would have probably a morning flight, a midday flight, and an evening flight to really make it feel like you had a direct flight that was that you had options for. And so that is 150 times 2 there and back times 3 times 7, right? So I don't know what the math is on that, but I know it's over 1,000, I think. So we need about 1,000 people plus or minus a day to make a daily route really worth it here in Albuquerque. And, those are big numbers. And so that's often why we don't get those direct flights, is because we just don't have the numbers to make it make sense. So they end up doing things like, making us go through a hub so that they can add people to those flights. Right now, looking at COVID, of course, this year was terrible and we lost even more flights than we would have hoped. Luckily, with CARES funding, we also kept more than we may have. We had another kind of time of fake inflated demand because we were not filling the planes, but people in the airlines couldn't take all the routes away from us because there were rules through the CARES funding on how they actually had to continue to provide a minimum level of service to airports. So they did do that. So we did have more flights than we actually would have had otherwise. But the biggest thing that they wanted to do is they wanted to make sure that we had access to the same places, but it may have been more difficult or taken longer to get somewhere. So that was unfortunate. And the first thing that left, of course, was those direct nonstops, the point to point that we love so much, and especially the ones with the longest stage length, which is the distance from Albuquerque to wherever you're going. So that's what we lost first. We are now definitely rebuilding from Albuquerque to the various hubs, and they are continuing to add connectivity there to make sure that we can get where we want to go. But right now it's probably taking you 2 flights to get where you want. And hopefully, though, we have been talking to all of the airlines, and they are excited to bring back our point to points and our nonstop. And a lot of them looks like, I'm hopeful that they're going to be coming back this summer. So I think the summer schedule that we have is going to be looking much more robust. From what we have heard, I actually heard from one of our airlines that bookings for them across the country had increased 400% from summer of 2019 to summer of 2021. So not only are they seeing, a return of demand, but they're seeing all that pent up demand really coming out over the summer. People are excited, as Cynthia mentioned, for tourism, to travel. They've been at home. They haven't been seeing their friends and family. They haven't gone on a fun vacation in a while. So luckily that's coming through in the numbers this summer as people are getting vaccinated. So that's a really good sign. But, as I mentioned, it's that chicken and egg. How are we going to get more flights? More people are going to fly. So really, I also always try to encourage people, if there is a nonstop available, take the nonstop. Try to, choose that one. Be a little more flexible with your schedule. Pick that nonstop flight, because that basically gives us like behind the scenes points on, how we get more of those nonstops, because they see us picking it. We get those numbers up, and we get the hopefully reward at the end, because we all did a good job picking those nonstops. So of course I do go and I make the case for us, but I have to show actuals and number. I can't fake them out. They know what they're talking about. So keep flying.
Well, I know for sure, Nika, I'm one of those nonstop. I am not a great airline traveler. I don't like that confined space and all of the what ifs that come with it. But I have to tell you, I'm the first one to hit the button for a nonstop. So I love that little tip. We'll remember to share that, because that's great information. And just to answer one of the questions that came in during this time on Facebook, my guess would be that is why Volaris was not able to continue running out of our airport.
That is correct. I will say, not to slight the company, because I never want to do that. But when we're working often with American Airlines, not as the company American Airlines, but any airline based in America, they often they have a different plan, I would say, for starting a new route. So as a new airline starting a new route in a new city, it takes time to build up that demand. Most of our Americanized airlines, they know that there is going to be demand, but it takes time for us to do the marketing. We were working, with Tanya and Cynthia to really start to get demand built up for those flights to Guadalajara and Chihuahua. And so we were excited about that, but it takes time. People don't go on vacation the next day. People think about, oh my gosh, my grandma lives in Chihuahua. I would love, now that we have a direct flight, I would love to go see her for Christmas this year. And I'm talking in July. I just saw my mom this weekend, and we were planning for Thanksgiving. So, we're thinking about Thanksgiving, but that's already, I don't know, 6-7 months out now. So an airline has to have the financial backing and financial stability to be able to wait that out. And here in Albuquerque, it does take a little bit longer for us to build up that demand, to let everyone know that that's a direct flight, to let them know how incredible Guadalajara is and what a cool city it is for tourism, and how closely aligned it is with New Mexico. All of those things really do take time to put in place. And, the goal, I think, for an airport is really to work with an airline that understands the time that it takes to build up that demand, and that is willing to front the cost for us to actually make that route work. It does take time. We do actually offset the cost often. We help lower a lot of their hard costs of operating at the airport. When we have a new airline or a new route come in, we're actually able to bring down the price. But one thing that we're not allowed to do legally is we're not allowed to buy seats on the plane, which is an interesting thing. And that's what they care about. They want butts in seats and they want dollars in the bank. And so we can lower their cost, which does help. We can also put money into marketing, which Cynthia mentioned that we're doing, but we cannot put butts in seats directly, and I cannot pay that money. So, I have talked to organizations within the city and the state to talk about how we can all collectively work together if we really want a specific route, because I can't actually buy butts in seats, but other people in the city or the state could actually pay that. It's just a specific airport requirement that we do not, do that. But so it is possible, and there's that kind of like first 6 months period. That's a challenge. So certainly if we all collectively wanted to work together to make sure we got them to 70, we guaranteed an airline 75% full for the first 6 months, then they'll probably fly us for the first 6 months until we have time to build up that natural demand. But it is, it is a little challenging to figure all that out. So that's a long answer.
You know what, Nika, I'm glad that you said all that. We have a lot of comments coming in on Facebook about, different types of marketing, mentioning, hey, if you're working with, Mexican Airlines, are we advertising in certain parts of the city and the state? And other people saying they can help. So this is a really, really great conversation. I'm super glad that we're having it, because it's just, like you said, getting people excited about getting out again into the world and doing that traveling, but at the same time, helping us boost our tourism economy here as much as we need it. And so I want to kind of circle back around to Tanya. And speaking of boosting our tourism economy, what are some of the initiatives that Visit Albuquerque has put in place, or what are you looking at coming up that we can, that the public can expect to see? And what are some of your ideas about boosting this tourism economy that we're in right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news is we are seeing for our hoteliers and for attractions and dining partners, we are seeing some good business. So since spring breaks around us, we did see some of that traffic from other states. And I think it comes at a time when we're certainly in our community. Absolutely, that comfort level is increasing here as well. We do, and with the restrictions, we're looking forward to being in green and being in turquoise here very shortly, so that we can continue to host even more with those increased occupancies. But traffic has been good since March. So we started to see an uptick. I think that's really important for people to know. People are here in our community, experiencing our community and enjoying it. It does come with some additional, they need to understand kind of what their, the restrictions, and make sure that we're prepared for that. So our visitor information center is open in Old Town. We're doing live chats with people online as they're looking at the website before they come here. We're doing phone calls. The phone calls have really increased as well. So as we look to the future, certainly we're going to turn on the marketing in a much stronger fashion. We're looking at, we've been continuing to do public relations work. We've had great articles written about the destination during the pandemic. That's been great. Social media, continued social media work, but we're going to turn back on paid media so that we can really get the word out about Albuquerque. And so that's going to come in both the form of, as Cynthia mentioned earlier, wonderful to have this additional investment from Mayor Keller. That's going to just add on to the marketing that is happening. So it really is going to give that nice infusion for the summer. Couple of things. I mean, I think we're perfect for road trips, and so and people are willing to be in their car a little bit, longer distances. And so with the cross section of I-25 and I-40, perfect for road trips this summer. But we do want to make sure we're going to market in our fly markets as well, because we understand the importance of that air service to Albuquerque for our overall tourism. And as Nika said, it's all about demand. It's all about they're going to go where the travelers are asking. If they're asking about Albuquerque, they're showing demand for Albuquerque. That's what's going to increase our chances of that air service coming back. So So that's really the plan from a leisure marketing. Important to know, sports tourism has started. We're starting to see that the ability for youth sports and for sports tourism, adult tournaments as well. And so you're going to see that over the summer. And that's just so important. And so much of that outdoor sports, outdoor activity that we're just, perfect weather, perfect opportunity for us. And it brings in, people just don't even realize, see these teams playing on a baseball field, don't even realize the total impact to the city through the staying in our accommodations, dining in our restaurants, taking in the city. And then we do have conventions I'd say got a really large convention in August, and through the end of the year, we've got conventions on the books that we're really trying to hold on to. So we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to open back the doors of the convention center, and not just the convention center. I think it's really important. We talk about downtown because it's really important. The vitality of downtown is important for the entire city. We've got to have a thriving downtown and the vitality of downtown, but we've got meetings and conventions that take place at all of our area hotels. And right now they haven't been able to do that business. So get to green, get us back pumping in terms of that activity.
And one thing I just wanted, oh, Shannon, you're on mute.
I was going to say thank you, Tanya. And you're right. We need to all do our part in helping to get to green, because it really, our tourism industry is one of our biggest economies in New Mexico. And with that being where it's at right now, it's suffering. And so if we can, these types of conversations are so important to let the public know what role the airport plays, what role Visit Albuquerque plays, and then what role economic development plays, because I don't really think that a lot of people understand. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring Nika in because I know she has a question, but I want to head back to Cynthia in a minute, because one of the questions is, what is lodger's tax and what is the lodger's tax board and what does it do? And it's interesting to know, we know because we're in the business and we have to know what it is, but Cynthia, I'm going to have you explain that in a minute because the public doesn't understand it. So this is a really, really great conversation. Nika, jump right back in.
One thing I just wanted to tag on to what Tanya said, and she'll sympathize with this comment, I think. We don't often talk about this, but tourism and the tourism economy and bringing it to Albuquerque and direct flights, it is a competition. It is literally a competition with all of the other states and cities that are around us and in the country. And when you talk about something like an airline and why we don't have a certain direct flight, they're doing what makes the most economic sense. And that's because they have, finite resources as well. So there's only so many planes, there's only so many pilots, there's only so many hours in the day, right? So all of those, they're going to allocate them to the place that not just makes money or breaks even, they're going to do it to the place that makes them the most money. And that goes, for a lot of Tanya's work as well, bringing those conventions to Albuquerque. It's a fight, every time you guys bring a convention here, because you're competing against, Dallas and Denver and everyone else that wants the same convention for their organization. And so, we don't like to talk about that a lot, but we are competing for every single dollar and every single tourist and every single butt in seats. So just wanted to add.
And something that's really important, and Ernie, you're more than welcome to jump in on this. But you're right, Nika, and I think that is a huge hello moment for everybody, that we are competing. And when you're out looking to bring in large conferences and conventions that are typically held maybe in bigger cities or maybe more tropical locations, whatever it is, it's our job to go out there and sell the city, to say, why Albuquerque? Let me tell you why. Our culture, our food, our weather, whatever it may be, our hotels, our restaurants. And so it's important that we do that. And we are also, here at the Chamber, really ready to open back up, like Tanya said, get that going in working in the markets that we do. And we have been focusing on saving, as Tanya mentioned, some of those larger conferences and conventions. So I know, Ernie, please jump in at any point, but it's important that we do so because they bring a lot of tourism dollars to the city.
So yeah, thanks, Shannon, and Tanya knows this because she eats it and drinks it every day. Is these conventions? It's not like, hey, come next year. We're open next year. It's what happened to us through this pandemic has a ripple effect, because you spend years trying to get a convention to come here. You spend a lot of time trying to do it through relationships, through going to their conventions, through contact. It's not like it comes in next year. I mean, these are 2 and 3 and 4 years out, these conventions that we book. And so when all of a sudden the pandemic comes and they have to cancel, or they go, I don't think we're going to make it in 2021 because I don't feel so good about it. Maybe we might not even feel so good about 2022. And guess what? We might start doing the things a little more virtual. And so things change dramatically. And talk about that awful word pivot, what you have to do, because what we want are heads and beds. And, it's great to have a virtual convention, but it doesn't do anything for lodgers tax. That does not fill that bucket. So this pandemic has kind of tipped conventions on it's just flipped us. And so what we're trying to do is kind of make sure that those conventions that we had book the following year, or we keep in touch. But what happens, they've already made commitments. A lot of times they've made commitments for 2022 to be in San Antonio. They're going to be in 2021 in Albuquerque, 2022 in San Antonio. Guess what? They're not going to change San Antonio. They already got everything worked out there. I mean, so that ripple effect is very difficult for us to navigate through. So, I mean, it is something, and, we continue to work hard and keep in touch with folks, but, you keep
Ernie, and everybody on this panel are definitely leaders in the tourism industry here in our city and our state. And we have a very different and unique responsibility and obligation, because technically our state is still not fully open, whereas all the states around us are, not all, but there's a lot of states around us that are open, and states across the country that are open. So it's a really unique way that we have to be when we are talking to these conventions and conferences about canceling, or about should they keep their date later in the year. And so it's a dance. It's definitely a dance that we're all performing right now. But I think for people to understand a little bit more about how those dollars work, where they come from and what they are, Cynthia, I'd love for you to jump in here and share with us a little bit about the lodgers tax and what it is and how it affects the tourism economy.
Sure. I'll answer your first question regarding the Lodgers Taxes Advisory Board. And then I'll ask Tanya to chime in to talk about your second question, because she is really the subject matter expert when it comes to how the lodgers tax impacts the city of Albuquerque, and actually, and at the end of the day, really impacts our ability to market the city as a destination. And so the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board advises the mayor and the city council on the expenditure of lodgers tax funds for advertising, publicizing, and promoting tourist attractions and facilities like the convention center in Albuquerque. The Lodgers Tax Advisory Board is a volunteer board made up of 7 members appointed by the mayor with advice and consent of the city council. And some of the advisory board commissioners, their duties are to review past and current performance of any organization contracting with the city, like Visit Albuquerque, like the Albuquerque Spinal Chamber of Commerce. And they also advise the mayor as to the performance of such contractors on a quarterly basis. In addition, they make recommendations to the mayor concerning whether such contracts should be renewed or discontinued at the end of the day. And that's really their charge and their duties that are outlined by the ordinance that was set forth by the city council. And I'd like to ask Tanya to chime in regarding lodgers tax and the impact and how it impacts the ability for us to market the city again as a destination.
Absolutely. So there's a 5% lodgers tax and a 1% hospitality fee. So anytime a visitor stays in a hotel room, pretty typical across the country, it's called either lodgers tax, bed tax, occupancy tax, but and it really occurs in every city across the country. So ours is a 6% tax. And that moving into 2020, that was really edging, you're at a 15 million mark. We've had just an absolute, we've had almost at least at this point in time, close to 50% drop in lodgers tax from the pandemic. So just to give you an idea, those resources not there to market the destination. And so that's the importance, I think, in terms of, one of the, when we're talking about the highly competitive environment we're going into, the resources that we have that have been depleted, we're going to be out there with these communities that are, pro-tourism, they believe in tourism, same as Albuquerque, but they do have higher resources. So that's just a reality for us. So we're going to have to be really, really smart and creative in the way that we tell Albuquerque's story moving out of this, because you also have to think there's not going to be the same demand for international travel. That's going to be slower to return. So it's these destinations that frequently have had big, volumes of international travelers that all of a sudden they're like, we're going to try to fill that void with domestic travelers. We're going to get really interested in attracting even more domestic travelers to our city. So I think for us, just, going to be important collaboration, cooperation between all to make sure that we're highly competitive in this environment, and we deliver. Once they get here, we make sure we take good care of the visitors so that they tell their friends and family.
So for everybody out there watching, you'll hear people often say heads and beds, and that's exactly what this tax is. So the more traffic that we drive to our city, the more times they stay in a hotel room, or the more that you invite your friends and family in to stay in our hotel room, that helps to build that fund, that helps to build that tax, it helps to build the ability for the city to market and keep us a destination, a desirable destination, a need to go to destination. Like, you can't get enough of your Albuquerque fix, you got to be there destination, so that we can continue to thrive in, like I said, one of our biggest industries in the state. So I cannot believe our hour is coming to an end. We could be on here another 2 or 3 hours. This is such important information, and it's been really exciting. I know, Tanya, you do have to jump off, so I want to give you the opportunity to definitely say something before you leave, and we'll start to close up after that.
I would just say thank you very much for this invitation. Pleased to be here with the Hispano and with city representatives as well. And we've been working really hard to offer resources to small businesses. And so I just invite Visit Albuquerque has a team that's ready to answer your questions, see how we can help. And so don't hesitate to reach out. Hopefully everyone's following us on social media, paying attention to how they can help be the best ambassador for the city, share that content. But our team at Visit Albuquerque stands ready to work with small businesses to really lead us out of this recovery.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I know you have to hop off, so whenever you do, thank you again for joining us. And it's always a great conversation when it comes to tourism in our city. So we thank you for your expertise. And as we start, like I said, to wind down this hour, it's just been a really great information to hear from Nika at Aviation. We have several questions that have been coming in, so we're going to do our best to answer them. If not, we'll get them to Nika so she can answer. And also the same with Cynthia. So for Chris and whoever's out there posting, I'm getting the copy of them here in my feed on Zoom. Stay tuned, because we're going to do another webinar with economic development where we're going to focus specifically on small businesses, and we're going to talk about what they have for small businesses. We're actually going to bring in their small business advocacy office. So we're going to be doing that, I believe, in the next few weeks. So stay with us, and you'll get to ask that question then. So as we begin to close up, Nika, I'd like to take it to you. Share with us your closing words. We didn't get to ask any of the big questions like the initiatives and tons of stuff going on, but again, great information. So I definitely love for you to have a few last words.
Sure, I'll just touch on a little bit of that. Thanks, Shannon. We are really focused on the economy this year. And so one way that we realize we can double down is actually within the construction industry. So over the next 5 years, I have programmed $286 million of construction projects for our community. And so I'm very excited to announce that we'll be putting that out there. I'm going to do my darndest to make sure we have so many small businesses involved in getting this funding and coming and doing some great work for us at the Albuquerque International Sunport. That is actually going to be, we usually spend about $25 or so million a year on capital projects. I am increasing that to over $40 million a year. And so quite a bit of money, increased it by 68% year over year. So I'm very excited. That money comes from the airport. We are an enterprise fund of the city of Albuquerque, so that is not general fund taxpayer dollars. That's actually revenues that the airport has made over the years, and now I think it's a good time to spend it to get our economy running. So didn't want to take too much time on that, but I did want to announce, please, if you're in the construction industry, come talk to us. I hope you'll get involved in a project coming up soon. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nika. And we'll follow up with you so we can make sure that we're putting that information out. We have a big project going on with contractors right now in the city and across the state. So I'd love to be able to share that info with them because they may not know that. And this is a great way to help stimulate after COVID as well in a different industry. So thank you so much for that information. Cynthia, same thing. I know that it's so much to speak of, but if you could give us some closing words from economic development. And like I said, everybody, we're going to do another webinar with Cynthia's office, so we'll be able to get into more of the small business focus. But Cynthia.
Sure. I'll stick to tourism and the hospitality industry. And I'll just leave your viewers with this, maybe not just those that are in Albuquerque, but those that are maybe tuning in across the country. You know, as people seek to travel, and relocate to places that are less densely populated, more affordable, less stressful, and really, as I mentioned earlier, naturally conducive to healthier living, period. We want for those folks to really make sure that Albuquerque is at the top of their list. It's possible also that, you know, vacationers may need to send off a few emails or hop on Zoom like this while they're here. And so we hope that they will utilize our beautiful hotel space for their remote work and really to help boost the hospitality industry. We hope that they will visit and frequent our restaurants, all of our yummy, and eat some of our yummy red and green chili, visit our coffee shops, breweries, and Wi-Fi hubs that exist all over Albuquerque. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share with your audience, Shannon, and thank you to the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce.
Well, thank you so much. Ernie, same thing. We're just about a minute to go, and some closing words from you, our president here at the Hispano Chamber.
Well, what a great panel. I mean, gosh.
I'm bummed we have to end.
I know, it went by really fast. And no, I tell you, both Nika, you and Cynthia are doing such a great job in what you're doing, promoting Albuquerque in so many different ways. We're just happy to be associated with you all. So yeah, we want to make sure we work collaboratively. It's all about the city. It's all about letting people see what a great place we have. And we're all about that. So anytime we can help do that. In fact, Cynthia, I'm going to call you a little later about an opportunity in Austin for LULAC at the end of August. So I'll call you about that.
You mean in Albuquerque?
It's about bringing LULAC here and what they want us to do. They just referenced something about the city. So I'll get in touch.
Do it.
Because that's a huge conference, as you know. If we could bring LULAC conference here in 2023, they're supposed to be here in 2021. So, you know, that's how we do it. We collaborate. All right. Cheers.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Stay tuned. We will see you on Wednesday right here at noon. Grab your stack lunch, your favorite beverage. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We don't judge here, but get ready and sit down. We're going to meet another couple departments within the city, and we're very excited. Thank you so much, Nika and Cynthia. We've had a blast, and I'll tell you what I've learned today. Well, I've learned a lot, but the one thing that I've learned is this conversation, this topic of conversation must happen more often. We have so many people engaging online, asking so many questions. And so we're going to do our best for everybody out there watching that maybe we set something up quarterly or more often so that you guys understand how this works. and how important it is. And I'm so excited to see your enthusiasm out there about talking about filling butts and seats and heads and beds, and you're picking up on the language, and that's what we need. We need the public to be our partner in helping to promote tourism in Albuquerque, and we cannot thank you enough. So you guys have a wonderful Monday afternoon. We'll see you Wednesday for some new departments. And in the meantime, we'll schedule something back with these lovely ladies and of course our president. Thank you all. Have a great day. We'll see you Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.